So, today we're going to trace the epic 10 billion year story of the single most important object in our lives, our sun. It's a story of birth, a long and stable life, and a really dramatic, fiery end that's going to reshape our entire solar system. Let's dive in. I know, that sounds like something straight out of a disaster flick, right? But it's actually a very real, scientific prediction of Earth's final moments. It's a vision of a time when our familiar sun will swell into a terrifying, all-consuming giant. And this isn't an if, it's a when. This incredible destructive climax, it's the final act in a story that began a very, very long time ago. So, to really get our heads around how our world will one day be scorched out of existence, we need to understand the forces that created our star in the first place. This story of destruction is, believe it or not, really a story of cosmic life cycles.
Okay, let's hit rewind. We're talking 4.5 billion years. Long before Earth, long before any of us, our little corner of the Milky Way was just a quiet, dark cloud of gas and dust. But, it wasn't going to stay quiet for long.
And here's the crazy part. Our sun's birth was probably triggered by the death of another, much bigger star. A nearby supernova sent a shockwave ripping through this cloud, squeezing it and giving gravity the kickstart it needed. As these clumps of matter collapsed, they spun faster and faster, heating up, until, right at the very center, a protostar began to glow. And finally, after a million years of crushing pressure, the core got so hot that it ignited. Boom! That moment, that was the birth of our sun.
And with that ignition, the sun entered what astronomers call the main sequence. You can think of it like the sun's long, stable adulthood. For the last 4.5 billion years, and for about 5 billion more to come, the sun will exist in this state of perfect balance, just steadily burning its fuel and providing the stable energy that allowed life to flourish right here on Earth.
So how does that even work? What's the secret sauce? What's going on deep inside the sun that keeps it so perfectly stable for literally billions of years? Well, let's take a look under the hood at the engine that drives our entire solar system.
You can think of the sun's entire life as this epic, cosmic tug-of-war. On one side, you've got the unbelievable force of gravity trying to crush the star into a tiny little point. And on the other side, you've got the explosive energy of nuclear fusion in the core, pushing relentlessly outward. For 10 billion years, these two forces are in a perfect deadlock. And this is what makes it all happen. At 27 million degrees Fahrenheit, the pressure is so intense that individual hydrogen atoms, which normally would just repel each other, are smashed together. They fuse to become helium, and in that process, a tiny bit of mass gets converted into a huge amount of energy. We're talking hundreds of millions of tons of hydrogen converted every single second.
And this is just mind-blowing. It shows you just how unbelievably dense the sun really is. A photon of light, born in the core, doesn't just fly straight out. Nope. It spends, on average, 170,000 years bouncing around inside the sun, getting absorbed and shot out again in this chaotic dance. It's only when it reaches the outer convective zone that it can catch a ride on a current of hot gas to the surface. And then, after all that time, it makes the 93 million-mile trip to Earth in just over 8 minutes. Just think, the sunlight on your face right now started its journey when early humans were first walking the Earth. Wow.
But, all good things must come to an end. That perfect balance, that main sequence stability, it can't last forever. Like any engine, the sun runs on a finite amount of fuel. And in about 5 billion years, that hydrogen fuel in its core is going to run out. And that is when things get truly dramatic.
Now, this isn't going to happen overnight. It's a long, slow-motion goodbye. Even in just a billion years, way before the main event, the sun will have gotten bright enough to boil our oceans and make Earth totally uninhabitable. But the real transformation kicks off in 5 billion years, when the core's hydrogen fuel is spent. That cosmic tug-of-war is broken, and gravity starts to win.
So what happens is, as the core shrinks and gets hotter, it ignites a shell of hydrogen around the core. And this is like throwing gasoline on a fire. This new fusion is even more powerful, and it pushes the sun's outer layers outward on a scale that's just unimaginable. Our star will swell to over 200 times its current size, becoming a red giant so enormous it's going to swallow Mercury and Venus whole.
Okay, so this is the question on everyone's mind, right? What happens to us? Are we going to get swallowed too? Well, the models are kinda on the edge, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Even if our planet narrowly escapes being gobbled up, the sun's surface will be so close that it'll boil the oceans away, strip away our atmosphere, and bake the surface into a charred, lifeless rock. So, either way, our world is doomed.
So, after all that terrifying, violent expansion, the sun's story takes one last, quieter, and, well, surprisingly beautiful turn. This colossal star just can't hold itself together anymore. It becomes unstable, and its final act is one of both collapse and release. So here's the key. The sun starts to fall apart. It literally sheds its outer layers. Powerful stellar winds blow its atmosphere away, creating this vast glowing cloud of gas. This is called a planetary nebula, which is a bit of a weird name because it has nothing to do with planets. Early astronomers just thought they looked like gas giants through their little telescopes. And at the very center of this gorgeous nebula, the star's hot, dead core is left behind, collapsing under its own weight into something totally new.
And this is what's left behind. The sun's final form, a white dwarf. Basically, a stellar corpse. I want you to imagine taking about half the mass of our entire sun and crushing it down into a ball the size of planet Earth. The matter is so dense that a single teaspoon of it would weigh as much as an elephant. It doesn't produce any new energy, it's just a cooling ember that will slowly fade to black over trillions of years.
I mean, just stop and think about that transformation for a second. The sun goes from this colossal red giant, hundreds of millions of miles across, to a tiny, white-hot cinder no bigger than a planet. It's one of the most dramatic physical changes you can even imagine in the entire universe. But, and this is the really beautiful part, the death of our sun isn't just an ending. In a very real sense, it's also a new beginning. It's an act of cosmic creation.
Remember all those layers the sun blew off into space? That gorgeous planetary nebula? Well, it's not just pretty gas. It's full of heavy elements like carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen that were cooked up inside the sun's core. This material will spread out, mix with other gas clouds in the galaxy, and become the raw material for a whole new generation of stars and planets.
And that right there brings it all full circle. The very atoms that make up our bodies, our planet, our air, everything, they were forged inside stars that lived and died long ago. And in the same way, the death of our sun will one day provide the building blocks for worlds we can't even imagine. It's this grand cosmic cycle of death and rebirth.
So, let's just leave it with this thought. Our star's death is going to seed the galaxy with the ingredients for new life. What fantastic new forms might arise from the ashes of our solar system billions and billions of years from now. The story, it seems, never really ends. Thanks for joining me on this one.